There are moments in our lives when it's time to hit the reset button. For the men and women of the INDYCAR Series, their season of rejuvenation has arrived. Standing on the shoulders of a proud past, a century of memories. Today, we springboard into a future with new cars and new engines. With fresh faces that bear familiar names. A once proud team seeks to begin a new era of championships, while the team that has denied them drives for 5 in a row. Call it evolution, or even revolution. It all starts right here, right now, with a good old-fashioned street revival. Welcome to St. Petersburg.
Well, for the 9th time, we're going to run the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, and, well, every year but one, we've had absolutely perfect weather, and today is no exception. Some high, puffy clouds, but as you can see, the sun is shining bright, temperature going up into the 80s, and of course, the fans have been supporting this event for years. It's becoming a happening, and people want to be a part of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. And we welcome you to the streets of St. Petersburg for this wonderful event. And one of those familiar faces, Marco Andretti. He's going to be making his 100th career start today. One of the newcomers to the series, Josef Newgarden. And boy, has he been impressive here in his first outing in the big cars. Well, for Scott Dixon, he's a great driver, but boy, the last 4 years at St. Petersburg has not been very kind to him. And how about a 39-year-old rookie on the left with friend Tony Kanaan? That's Rubens Barrichello, 322 career Formula One starts. And as we come inside our location along the front stretch, we welcome you. Hello again, everybody. Marty Reed alongside with Scott Goodyear, and glad to be back with you because especially what happened 5 months ago. It's been a long process, a healing process, a closure process since the death of Dan Weldon. And we will reflect back on Dan throughout the pre-race festivities, but we also want to focus ahead because this is a new generation, new cars, new drivers, new faces, and new engines.
And you know, you talk about new drivers, 21-year-old Josef Newgarden, the 2011 Indy Lights champion. What a great job he's doing driving for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing. You know, he was fast in practice, didn't qualify well, but he will be somebody to watch this year. James Hinchcliffe, you know, the Rookie of the Year last year for Sunoco. I would say that this guy in his new ride right now is going to be a contender all year long, driving for Andretti Autosport, starting 4th today, and he's really livened up that team a little bit. Now, you mentioned 39-year-old Rubens Barrichello, the oldest driver that's in the field today, but the guy with the most experience. And because this series has a lot of road course and street courses, he will be a contender throughout this year, Marty.
Well, sometimes what's old is new again. How about the battle between Team Penske and Target, Chip Ganassi Racing? They're the two protagonists from last year, and it looks like it may shape up as another battle between these two. Dario picks up right where he left off after winning the championship.
Franchitti wins. Dario Franchitti by a half a car length at the line. The man from down under has claimed victory. Dario and Will Power make contact.
Dario Franchitti is the winner.
And Will Power, the Aussie, will win. Will Power puts the rest of the field in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, baby, that's the way to do it.
Well, last season, these two drivers, well, they couldn't keep each other separated. Of course, he became the champion, and you were runner-up once again, Will. But you guys this year have switched to Chevy power while they stayed with Honda. How do you think that's going to mix up the competition this season?
Well, it's been pretty good so far. I mean, qualifying the top 5 are Chevy engines. So, you know, we'll see. We don't know what reliability is going to be like. This will be the first time that everyone's run a full race distance. So, you know, fingers crossed that we're all good. But the Chevy guys done a bloody good job, you know, over the winter. They've worked hard, and, you know, I think we're in good shape.
And I'll ask you, Dario, the same question. How do you think that's going to affect competition? Is this a benefit for you guys to stay with the same manufacturer from last year?
Well, every race I've won and every championship has been with Honda, so I've got a lot of confidence in them. Obviously, yesterday was not the start we were looking for, though the Chevys clearly have a little advantage right now. We think we know where it is. We've got to work hard towards fixing that. So today's going to be a tough one, I think. I'm glad I'm with the Target team. I think the guys in the pits can do a good job. The strategy will be key as well, and just going to have to drive every lap like a qualifying lap and see what we can come up with.
All right, Dario Franchitti will start 10th, and of course, Will Power on the pole here for the third time. Marty?
All right, thank you, Jamie. Let's take a look at how these two shape up here at St. Petersburg. They each have a win, and actually, in laps led, it's Dario up front, but the average finish leans more towards Will. Will start on the pole, and as you heard, Dario qualified 10th, but he is actually going to start 9th. We'll talk more about that as we get ready for the green flag. Let's talk a little bit more about the new car, the DW12. There's a good view of it. Take us through it, Scott.
Well, the DW stands for Dan Weldon, Marty, because he did all the testing on this car before he was killed back in Las Vegas. And the new car does look different than the 11 car. You can see the biplane is more efficient because of the way that the air goes over the front wing. Better impact absorption up in the front area, better use of materials through that area. Larger underwing gives the cars more grip, more downforce because of that large underwing, so you can use a smaller rear main plane. It's 4 inches smaller on this new car. Now, we've had some issues with cars climbing over the back of other cars, so to avoid this, the tail section has been redesigned to avoid the wheel-to-wheel contact. And for driver safety, we have 3 inches of foam behind the driver, 1.2 underneath the driver's seat, and a side intrusion panel to make the car safer for the occupants driving them. You can see here that the new car is definitely lighter than last year's car. We've gone away from the normally aspirated engine to the 2.2-liter V6 turbo, and those will rev up to 12,000 RPMs. The brakes are all new this year, carbon, much like they use in Formula One, so it might be an advantage to Rubens Barrichello. Chevy and Lotus are now joining Honda into the series, and we're now using a hand clutch that's mounted onto the steering wheel, something different for the drivers to now because they've been so used to the foot clutch, Marty.
And you mentioned Rubens Barrichello. He is going to be in the new car for the very first time, and there he is. What a storied history. This man is 39 years old. In fact, he'll turn 40 the Wednesday prior to this year's Indianapolis 500. He has literally been racing for 34 years of his life. He said, the reason I came over here is because I do 2 things well. I'm a good dad, and I'm a good race car driver, and he certainly is. Let's take you through some of his career highlights.
Well, you mentioned starting in go-karting. Everybody does that, and he did that very well for many, many years. And as you go through the feeder series, as they're saying, you get into Formula cars and you learn the craft of driving, and he did that very well. And anytime you get into a different formula, you want to exceed your expectations, he's done that. And look at that, Formula One, 1993, 2001, 11 wins, runner-up in the championship, only because he had to follow team rules to Michael Schumacher.
And let's talk to him. How about it, Vince Welch?
Worldwide, one of racing's biggest stars for sure, Rubens Barrichello. Rubens, after 19 years in Formula One, what encouraged you or convinced you that the INDYCAR IndyCar Series was the next step for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, because I love the racing. I just, you know, I've been watching these the IndyCar races for a long time with my best friend TK, and super races. You have to wait until the 5 laps to the end until you really know who's going to win. So it gives a best chance to everyone, and it was the best opportunity for me. So, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that difficult. I got myself here, and I had problems on the first session. When I got up, you know, in the second session, learning everything, everybody was already hammering, and so it's tough. It's going to be tough, but it's a great learning curve for someone who has 19 years of experience of Formula One.
Quickly, what are your expectations for today?
Listen, I'm having that cold rookie feeling, because it's first because I just enjoy so much, and second because I have no idea. I haven't done a rolling start since I was go-karting, so I'm gonna have all a good experience, and let's hope we can talk later that it's been good.
Thank you, Rubens. Rubens Barrichello certainly wouldn't be here if it weren't for Tony Kanaan, his longtime friend and now teammate. Kanaan wants to be an aide to Barrichello while settling his own score.
Tony Kanaan with KV Racing. He's got something to prove right now.
They have the potential here. Remember, they've got a great driver. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of this race shakes out for Tony Kanaan.
TK, he's as good as it gets on road and street courses. Tony Kanaan's going to remain in front. That was a great spirited battle for 3rd place.
Seems like everything is different for this man this year. Tony Kanaan, everything but the team name, right? What was the difference for you in changing your engineer? You brought your old engineer back, and you even changed your team number and some other personnel changes.
Well, I think, Jamie, I was telling that to the people the other day. Either I'm becoming very old and you try to get back to the past with the people that you won. So I brought Jeff Simon, which is my crew chief, the one that I won the championship in 2004. Matt Curry, Eric Cowden, my engineer, that we won every single IndyCar race together. So it is a same team with the same name with old people back. So I'm feeling good. It's awesome to be back. I couldn't wait to come back racing St. Pete, a very special city. I don't think I need to mention why, but Dan is still in our prayers and thoughts, and I'm excited. I told Eric the other day, the good thing about it is having a good day or a bad day when I come back to the pits, I'm among people that I love. So.
And one of those people is Rubens Barrichello. You're responsible for bringing him to the IndyCar Series. How are you balancing kind of mentoring him in this series now with focusing on your own program?
I think that's not a big deal. I mean, we're such a close friends. We spend so much time together that I'm being answering all the questions for him, which is really weird because a guy that has so much experience like he does, the record on racings in Formula One. But I have to say, it's been a pleasure. I mean, yes, I am responsible, but also I would say he's, you know, he found his own sponsorship to come here, and I hope he's enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it a lot, and you know, nice to see you guys back. Thanks for, you know, the support. Say hi to the guys in the booth, and we'll have a fun day.
We'll throw it back up to the booth. Marty?
And we're glad to be back with you guys as well, Tony. There's Mike Conway. Been very good for AJ Foyt Racing since coming over.
I think a lot of changes at Foyt Racing are positive. Along with Mike Conway, new engineering, that team will be a contender, I think, this year.
Catherine Legg, first time in an IndyCar in 4 years.
And difficult for her because she has a Lotus engine. Not too much testing, only spent 1 day, and that's going to be the difficult part for that team and her.
And we've already mentioned the mayor of Hinchtown. That's his own internet site, James Hinchcliffe. Let's talk to him, Rick DeBrule.
Well, James Hinchcliffe is definitely the guy at the center of the storm, stepping into the GoDaddy car that Danica Patrick drove last year. Then it was going to be Dan Weldon's car. Now you get announced that this year it's your car. So here's the question. Is there a lot of pressure stepping into the GoDaddy car as a result of all that?
You know, there's a lot of pressure, but there's also a lot of honor in it. You know, to replace someone like Danica, who did so much for this sport, and then obviously to be the guy chosen to back up Dan is, you know, it means a lot to me, and it was cool to get his family's support on that one. So it's just great to be here, man. It's been a long off season. It's great to be in the GoDaddy car with Andretti Autosport. We've locked out the second row of the grid, so turn run here can be a little bit of an issue sometimes, but hopefully we can get through here. They didn't do a great job on that last year, so we're going to try and do a bit better. But looking for a great race day, and well, I want to say happy birthday to Danica because I know it's her birthday today, and also a shout out to my cousin Timmy back home in England.
All right, let's talk about the first lap. Last year, Andretti cars were fast. They had a problem with the crashes in the first lap, surviving them. You guys are fast again. Have you talked about that first lap? What to do? Is there a plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a famous first corner for accidents, you know, and right now we're heading into our first race start with these carbon brakes, and these things do not work very well when they're cold. So it's been a big hot topic of conversation about getting heat in them during those pace laps. So everybody knows to be a little bit extra cautious until we know, you know, exactly how these things are going to work in the race. So fingers crossed we can all get through turn one safe.
Well, and here's the basic plan. Check out his shoes. On the left, yep, it says stop down there. On the right, it says go. I think I know which one he's planning to use more.
Yeah, those guys love that right foot, that's for sure. And we'll send along a happy birthday also to Danica Patrick as we take a look at the two from last year when they were racing against each other in the series. And you can see that 3 top 5s to 1 in favor of Hinchcliffe, and laps led about 2 to 1 in favor of Hinch. But the average finish better for Danica at 12.4. And of course, Hinchcliffe takes over for one of the former stars of this series, being Danica Patrick. But there is one man that no one can replace for any of us involved in this series, and that's Dan Weldon. And earlier this month, Dan Weldon Way, right there at turn 10, was dedicated. And there's wife Susie on hand. When we come back, we'll talk more about Dan.
I can't tell you how many times I've thought of Dan in the last 4 months. My job when I get in the car is not to do that. My job is to clear my mind, to focus 100% on the job in hand. And if you can't do it, you don't want to do it, or you're not able to do it, unfortunately, you're probably in the wrong business.
Beautiful shots of the Bay Area here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And back in 2005, a young racer named Dan Weldon fell in love with this town, and no wonder why. He came here and won the race in 2005, leading the Andretti Green team to a top 4 sweep. It's never been done before or since in the IndyCar Series. And of course, last May, Dan Wheldon kissing the bricks for the second time at the Indianapolis 500. None of us knew at that time that would be the last time we would see Dan Wheldon in victory lane.
Got people touching tires. Go low, go low. Hold on to it, hold on to it, hold on to it. Huge wreck. There's cars everywhere. It's a mess all over the backstretch.
Oh my God, I hope everyone's okay.
Hey, Dan, you got a copy? You got a copy, Dan? No, he's not answering. Green, 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 green. Green, green, green. Got one outside. Clear, clear, clear. Clear inside if you want.
The first 11 laps, the cars were moving around. It was 3 wide. It was exactly what we thought, very intense.
I was holding my breath. I was trying to find a very safe spot. It was only in the beginning.
This is madness. Absolute madness.
Dan Wheldon started 34th in this field. He has moved up 10 spots.
I saw the first puff of smoke. Then you saw all the smoke, and basically all hell broke loose. I was lucky the way it sort of landed in many different ways. Then I came to a rest, actually looking at Dan. You know, I could see that he was in a lot of trouble.
The part that still rings in your mind is, you know, after the accident, you know, we did 1 lap and we had to weave through cars, parts, things on fire. Like, it honestly looked, you know, like devastation.
It looked like a bomb had exploded. Somebody had dropped a bomb from an airplane.
He'll be fine, it's Dan. He's going to be okay, and you're always hoping for the most positive, you know, kind of result, but, you know, as time drags out, you know, there's something pretty serious going on.
I was actually in the IndyCar truck with Brian Barnhart, and I think Dario and Tony were in there as well. And we got the word that he died on the helicopter, and I mean, it was a bad scene.
I got put to do a very difficult task, which was tell all the other drivers in a drivers meeting, and that probably was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and I hope I don't ever have to do it again.
IndyCar, its drivers and team owners, has decided to end the race. In honor of Dan Wheldon, the drivers have decided to do a 5-lap salute in his honor.
30 seconds before we start the engine, Stagliani came and poked his head into my car, and somebody had cut Dan's belt out of his driver's suit, and he handed it to me. And I was holding it for those laps, and that was the longest 5 laps of my life, for sure. To start the 2012 season in St. Pete is it's going to be hard. I think none of us had raced an IndyCar race since what happened to him.
It's a fear that we all have in the back of our heads. That day it was brought to the front. You have to put it to the back of your head.
I can't tell you how many times I've thought of Dan in the last 4 months. My job when I get in the car is not to do that. My job is to clear my mind, to focus 100% on the job in hand. And if you can't do it, you don't want to do it, or you're not able to do it, unfortunately, you're probably in the wrong business.
We all are exposed to that, from the biggest disasters to the silliest one. And, you know, if I could choose a way to go, you know, be in the race car as well.
And Trackside, they are remembering Dan Weldon today as well. In fact, the track has put together ribbons in Dan's memory, and they are selling those with all the proceeds going to Alzheimer's research. Dan's mother suffers from Alzheimer's. And also some of the Lionheart decals for Dan on the helmets of several of the drivers. As we come back inside, what you heard Tony Kanaan say, it may be difficult for all of you that are, any type of job other than what these guys do. But this is your way of life. This is what you do.
And Marty, it may sound cold what Tony Kanaan said, but as a driver, you know what you signed up for. You know when you go to a test or you get in the car for a race that you may not come back. And although it may be hard on us and hard on the crew, and you think about it, those guys went testing this whole complete winter, so it became a little easier for them. I think it's harder on the spouses. And I know that after I retired, I started to have some conversations with my wife about just how tough it is, because they didn't sign up for this. They didn't understand what they got themselves into. And when we're on the track, we're doing what we love, and we're in our zone. And for the spouses, that's the difficult part.
Well, Dan's presence obviously has been felt all weekend long. Now 26 have to climb into the car and do what no one else is going to do. That's drive. How do you focus?
And that's the enjoyment of getting into the car, but actually in times like this, it makes you wonder whether you want to do it or not. But once you get in the car and you put your belts on and you put the visor on, as soon as they start the car up and you feel it, you get into a different zone, and that's what makes this whole thing worth it.
Well, it's about time to go racing. Not only for Dan Weldon, but for the 26 racers that are in this field, as they will try and focus on what the job is at hand, what they do for a living. As you can see, the fans are filling the grandstands here in St. Petersburg as we're getting close to the beginning of the season. One of the major issues in racing is blocking. It's a fine line. When crossed, it can tip the scales to full tilt.
Blocking is kind of a part of racing. People still don't understand what it is.
You're going to impede the progress of the car behind you.
The most famous one was Edmonton in 2010.
Leo was penalized for blocking. Holy cow. Dixon is getting the win.
The rules in that point was discretionary.
That is a strange call.
His discretion, it wasn't my discretion, and I ended up getting a little bit upset.
There was a lot of talk actually here in St. Pete that TK blocked me.
That's a blocking move right there, boys.
That was a little bit of blocking, but that was fair racing, I think.
I've had it happen a few times, but I'm sure I've dished a few moves on guys that they weren't super happy about either. It all evens out.
All right, so you can see that the energy level is increasing down trackside. They are beginning to clear pit lane, and the grandstands here in St. Petersburg are just jammed as people are ready for this new age in the IndyCar Series. Let's go trackside to get the command.
St. Petersburg race fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome from Dancing with the Stars, Jack Wagner and his dancing partner Anna Trabunska as they give the command.
Ready? Drivers, start your engines!
The command has been given. Count down the corners for the radio. You can hear me everywhere. Let me know how you hear me. Wait, he says you guys are waiting. What do you mean? Just turn up?
For you fans that have been yearning for turbocharged engines to return, your prayers have been answered, and the wine is about to begin. Stay with us. We're coming back for the start after a word from your ABC stations. Another beautiful view of St. Petersburg, Florida, and you can see our weather just partly cloudy, those high puffy clouds, 81 degrees and a good breeze, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Go to shophonda.com and enter for a chance to start the Indy 500 in the IZOD IndyCar two-seater, driven by nobody else but Mario Andretti himself. Today's fan, going for the ride of her life, is Stacy St. John from Port Charlotte, Florida. And underneath that helmet, I think there is a grin all the way from here over to Port Charlotte. Scott, let's talk about this layout here at St. Petersburg.
Well, 1.8 miles in length, Marty, 14 turns here on the streets of St. Petersburg. And this is a very tight and bumpy circuit, very physical, and it's very unforgiving. The drivers today will have a time of their life trying to negotiate it. We're going to take a ride now along with number 12, Will Power, and you can watch the Firestone telemetry there on your left-hand side as he starts to squeeze the throttle of his Verizon machine back up to about 140 miles an hour going into turn 4, turns 4 through 9. very difficult to maneuver, very bumpy, very tight, very tough to get past in this area. You can see you're going to move through some shadow areas here, coming out of turn 8 towards turn 9, then hard on the gas and back up through the gears, through the kink at about 140 miles an hour onto Dan Weldon Way, entering turns 13 and 14. As you can see right here, this hairpin very tight. Will be a lot of confrontation going on here. You have to get out of here very quickly because you need that run down the straightaway. There'll be a lot of passing going into turn 1, which is right down the end of this Albert-Whitted runway.
All right, thank you, Scott. And let's take a look at our Honda starting grid across the top of your screen. 3 men broke the old track record, including our pole sitter, Will Power, and his teammate, Ryan Briscoe, right alongside. His 3rd consecutive pole here at St. Petersburg. All right, let's take a look at our race analysis. Specifically, let's zero in on the tires, Scott.
Well, we've got new cars and new engines, but the tires are the same reliable Firestone Firehawks that we have. The red sidewalls, when you see those on the cars, they offer more grip, but they wear a little quicker for the drivers. The standard black sidewall tire, it does get a little bit less grip, but will last longer, so drivers will have the choice of what tires they'd like to use in each segment.
While we've got a moment, let's go through our 6 onboard cameras that we have for you today. From back to front, we're on board with Charlie Kimball with the Novo Nordisk. He's starting 22nd. Then in the 18th position with the National Guard ride is J.R. Hildebrand in the number 4. Starting in the 9th position, because of a problem that we'll explain for the 77, Dario Franchitti in the Honda onboard camera. In the 8th starting position with the Firestone onboard will be Tony Kanaan. Then James Hinchcliffe in the number 27 GoDaddy.com machine. He's starting 4th, and our pole sitter, Will Power, with the Verizon onboard camera. Let's get the last-minute updates from pit lane. Jamie Little, you're up.
Well, we're on board right now. Ryan Briscoe, actually, that's Will Power, his teammate, but there's been concern in the number 2 camp today. They've had problems with the batteries on Ryan Briscoe's car. They weren't holding charge. They took everything out of the car that was electrical. They think they fixed the problem, but they don't know what was causing it. They told him he must keep his revs above 7,000 at this point. He's starting on the front row. That's him in the number 2. We'll keep an eye on it. Rick DeBrule?
Well, one of the former winners here at St. Pete is also a rookie. It's Josef Newgarden, who won the Indy Lights race here last year, the first of 5 that led him to an Indy Lights championship. But that was then. Today, it's a bigger, faster car, and for the first time in his career, pit stops while racing. He's driving for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing, proving he can be quick this weekend. We'll see if he's cool. So far on the radio, he sounds very calm. Marty?
All right, thank you, Rick. Broadcast is available in Spanish. All you have to do is activate your SAP button. Now let's get back to the one issue. One car had to change an engine. Under the new rules, if you change an engine, you lose 10 spots on the grid. So the 77 of Simon Pagenaud went from 6th in his qualifying spot. He'll start 16th. Everyone else moves up. And it is appropriate as we begin a new age. That is Holly Weldon. Yes, Dan Weldon's sister. She is going to wave the green flag to start this new era with the new cars that Dan Weldon helped develop with the test drives that he did. As they come around the corner, the starter will have the field in hand. The front row, all Team Penske. Pace car pulls off. They'll come down the front straightaway. And the 2012 INDYCAR Series is green. We're already well ahead of last year. Remember, last season, the first turn was a debacle, a multiple car crash. In fact, that man right there, Scott Dixon, was involved. He still got back into the race, ended up finishing 16th. Weaving their way through turn 8, now heading towards turn number 9. Hinchcliffe right behind him there in the 27. There's your race leader, Will Power, followed by Ryan Briscoe. 3rd is Ryan Hunter-Reay. On board with Hinchcliffe.
What a great job James Hinchcliffe has done. A lot of pressure sitting in that seat. Getting the first start here in anger. Remember, all these drivers have tested these new cars and these new engines, Marty, but a lot of them I spoke to said we don't know what they're going to do when we first get them into traffic. This is their first experience now.
As they come down to cross the stripe, second year in a row, Will Power has led the opening lap of the season, and the 9th consecutive race he has led in the series, and by far way ahead of everybody else.
And you saw Helio Castroneves have a little look underneath James Hinchcliffe, but underneath braking, he could not get it done. Helio's a little bit on the charge right now, and I think Helio's felt the pressure over the last couple of years, Marty, because his teammates sometimes and most often have gone faster than him.
Well, he had a disastrous 2011 by his own admission. No wins, 11th in the points championship.
Did not win a race, did not sit on pole, the first time in his career in a long time that he had that situation, and you can tell deeply when he talks about it, it's disturbing to him.
We mentioned the fact as you continue to watch Helio Castroneves, he is, of course, in Chevy Power, the top 5 positions taken by Chevrolet in qualifying, 7 out of the top 10. In fact, the one engine manufacturer that has been, shall we say, trying to play catch-up has been Lotus. That we knew they were going to be behind. Their best qualified effort was 17th by Oriol Servia. There is Scott Dixon. Of course, Dixon, we mentioned the fact that he has had some issues at this racetrack over the years, as he's had 6 DNFs in his career. 3 of them came right here at St. Petersburg in 08, 09, and 2010. And he finished 16th last year after that lap 1 incident.
He's probably feeling good about himself right now that he's got this far. But a lot of these drivers right now are trying to set into a pace, Marty, because fuel mileage is a bit of an unknown. Yes, they've tested, but with all these new engines and the turbocharged power plant that they have versus that 3.5 normally aspirated engine they had last year, everybody in the pit lane right now, all the engineers will be looking on their telemetry on the computers, trying to figure out what the fuel mileage is going to be and when we're going to pit.
Another guy that's got to be thrilled right now is Marco Andretti. The last 2 seasons, he hasn't made it through turn 1. 2010 at Sao Paulo, last year here. Remember, he got upside down on that multi-car crash, and he is running out there up front.
And you saw they had red sidewall tires on. Those are the ones that Firestone provides that have more grip. They might not last as long as the standard Blackwall tires, but for him, he wanted to get a charge on from where he qualified. He wants to try and move through the grid.
Getting word that there was some contact between Josef Newgarden in the 67 and Alex Tagliani in the 98. Let's see if we can pick it up for you as these guys race down towards turn 4. That's Newgarden on the left, or right there behind.
Just a little bit difficult to read the braking zones. Remember, we talk about these tires. This is some great battling going on here. This is a section that you generally don't see wheel to wheel. Well, now with the situation we have with these new bodywork that we have, the wider bodywork that's on here, you can actually do a little bit of bumping side to side and get away with scenarios that you may not have gotten away with in last year's car. You can see how wide the bodywork is. It really comes out in about level with the wheels, both front and rear, and that was designed specifically for that.
That's J.R. Hildebrand. As we come back towards the front of the field, there goes Will Power, Ryan Briscoe, Ryan Hunter-Ray, 4th place Scott Dixon, 5th Mr. Hinchcliffe. What a great sense of humor Hinch has. He's we mentioned his hinchtown.com. He is actually the mayor of this make-believe town. He says, I've created a monster. On-board angle, Scott, and watch the suspension.
And watch how close we get to the wall here. Now going through turn 8. Coming towards 9. So important to come out of here down a long straightaway. You're going to start going through the gears. Let's listen. Through the kink, flat out, coming hard into braking, turning left onto Dan Weldon Way. Now the turns that were coming up through here, 11 and 12, were difficult last year, but these new cars have more downforce, more grip, a little bit easier for the drivers to maneuver. This is the important turn right now, to get on the gas and try to get a run at the car in front. If you are delayed coming out of there, you will not be able to get a slipstream, the draft as they call it, and be able to dive on the inside of the car ahead of you. And that's what Hinchcliffe need to try to get accomplished with Scott Dixon just in front of him.
And we were able to see on that Firestone telemetry how fast and the RPMs that these turbo engines are creating as they streak down towards turn number 4. And we've seen a lot of cars run off in this section because it is a very fast corner. Drop back a little farther in the field. check in on the battle for 9th position as Marco Andretti and Graham Rahal are going after each other. Of course, Graham got his one and only IndyCar Series victory here at St. Petersburg. Was not happy after qualifying yesterday.
Talk about two famous names in motor racing. Marco Andretti, his father being Michael, his uncle Mario, winning the 1969 Indianapolis 500, also a world champion. And when you talk about the Rahal name, Bobby Rahal, 3-time IndyCar champion, and also the 1986 Indianapolis 500 winner. You talk about pressures coming into a series. You see just a little bit of lock up there on the right front tire.
Speaking of Graham and that victory here at St. Petersburg, let's take you back to that moment. April 6, 2008 in the streets, and Dad was here, and boy, was he happy for his son. Look at that big hug and very proud moment for father and son here at St. Petersburg. Let's check back in up front and see how our leader Will Power's doing. We can tell you the top 14 cars started this race on the red or softer compound, the alternate tire, and Power's lead is now 1.4 seconds as we are about to complete lap number 7 of 100.
Well, the thing that Will needs to do, he needs to keep on pushing, try to build a gap between himself and his teammate Briscoe, who's directly behind him. Because if it's under green flag pit stops, you hope that the lead that you built up, you can keep that as an advantage.
And while Will Power continues to pull away, we'll just give you a quick note. Our biggest mover so far, Takuma Sato. He's moved from 14th to 11th. We're going to step aside, go side by side here at St. Petersburg. Back here at the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. Glad that you're with us as we are working on the lap number 10 of 100 with Will Power now in front by 2.4 seconds over his Penske Racing teammate Ryan Briscoe, with Ryan Hunter-Ray another 2 seconds further back in third. One of the men we introduced you to during our pre-race, Rubens Barrichello. There he goes, streaking by in the number 8. And he started 13th. That's exactly where he is right now, 15 seconds behind the race lead. But as he said, he was feeling like a true rookie at the age of 39.
And one of the things he did say also when we spoke with him is that these tracks that he's running on here seem to be a little rougher than the Formula One tracks, which temporarily they are because they end up making those F1 tracks so smooth. Be interesting to get his comments at the end of the day, just how beat up he is in the car.
Well, we had a chance to talk to Rubens about the adjustments that he would have to make coming over from a Formula One cockpit to an IndyCar cockpit.
I need time at the car just to feel a little bit normal. It's almost like I'm in a rush in the car, and a racing driver cannot be in a rush. You have to, you don't grab the steering wheel heavily. You just grab it and just drive, you know? You have to be part of the car. And right now I'm not feeling like that because it's all too new to me.
Scott, isn't it like an airplane, a 747 versus an L-1011? They're both going to fly. They both are big, but the cockpit and the controls are all different.
They're very different. What he feels, because you have to be all in one with the car. It's like downhill skiing, and you have to feel like you're all in one with your skis. And for him, it will take him a few races to get that feel of this car because it is different.
Well, he sure did impress everybody in the test sessions that he drove over at Sebring, especially, as right now he is right behind Mike Conway and then right ahead of Justin Wilson. All right, let's reset the front man up there. There is Will Power. He has opened up now a 3.3-second lead, and already some teams are talking strategy down on the pit lane. What are you hearing there, Jamie Little?
Again, it's one of those unknowns. This year, they have a new fuel cell. It's 18.5 gallons instead of 19, as you see a pit stop right there on the left-hand side for the 77. Simon Pagenaud coming in early. But they're talking 3 stops for this race. Now, teams are telling their drivers, save fuel now to try to make it a 2-stop race. Telling Marco Andretti, you're doing a great job. Let's go back upstairs. 6 cars slow, Marty.
Yes, Catherine Legg has in desperate straits on the front straightaway there, and some of the cars are going to duck into pit lane already because she is right there. Here comes Will Powers. He is going to take advantage of this and pit early as well. So the race leader pulls off. Let's send it to Vince Welch. I'm sorry, let's send it to Jamie.
And you see Will Power making his way down. He had those red tires on. They have the blacks laid out. They will make this call. They're going to take it slow and easy. All the changes on this car makes it a little more difficult. But remember, very fast pit stops. He revs it high, 9.1. stalled it. He's down and away.
And that's that hand clutch that we were talking about. And other teams are taking advantage of this as well. There's Dario Franchitti as he has made a pit stop. Several other cars coming in. As you can see, Kanan, Takuma Sato, Mike Conway. And now the pits have just been closed because we have a full course caution for Catherine Legg, who was not able to get it off safely off track.
Now, certainly she did not run out of fuel, Marty, but they have had with these new cars some electrical issues. And this might just be one of these gremlins. When you have a problem with the car, if you think there's something and pits are there, you need to dive in.
Well, and she is in one of the 5 Lotus machines, and Lotus has been behind getting engines ready for the season opener. And we don't know if it's an engine issue or something else, but this is the first yellow of the day here. And let's go back and show you what happened. Just listen, see what happened.
It just turned off, and she was close enough to the pit entrance. She really should have tried to dive in. So now she's obviously losing many, many laps, and if they get the car repaired, then she can get back out. It's going to be time on the track for her because she has IndyCar experience, has not been in the car for quite some time, and didn't even race last year. So right now, just to get miles on that Lotus, Marty, is important so they can continue to see what that engine package needs to improve.
Pit lane is still closed. Those cars that were able to get in, did they have the advantage now? Or
it all depends on what happens with further yellows. And for Ryan Briscoe, who decided to stay out, remember, we're only in lap 13 right now, and they're saying that you can get to probably 28 or maybe 30 laps on these smaller tanks with these new style engines. So we'll have to see if he ends up in a scenario where he can actually get the timing right over the next up to 100 laps, and he ends up being at the front.
Well, we've seen Team Penske do this many times before with those split strategies between 2 cars that are running up front.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're doing. But for Ryan, you heard that Jamie had mentioned that he was told to keep it above 7,000 RPM. That's really when the alternator kicks in, starts to create power for the battery. So now behind the pace laps here, he's going to have to keep it in first gear, keep the RPMs up so he can recharge that battery in case there really is a problem with the electrical system.
On board there with James Hinchcliffe. Right now shown in 4th position. Pits were open, so no takers. So now,
different strategy.
We're going to see what happens as it continues to unfold here.
Now, we talked about the new brakes on these cars, the carbon brakes. When they do come back to green, it will be up to the driver's responsibility to what we do call drag the brake. You put your foot on the brake pedal, warm up the brakes a little bit, so when you get down into turn 1, you end up locking the wheels.
And you saw when we went on board with Will Power, he actually was able to get in and get back out and is shown in the 11th position.
Great advantage for him because as fast as he is, he will start working his way through the group here very quickly.
Well, remember Simon Pagenaud also stopped right before Will Power. Pagenaud, because of the penalty for changing the engine, started 16th, was mired in traffic. He stopped. He comes back out. He's shown in 17th right now, so no advantage there. He's stuck right where he was.
And it didn't work out timing-wise for him. Now, he is very fast. He was up in the top 6, and it's going to come down to his strategy play if he can actually get himself to a point where he can be up with the front leaders.
So right now it is Briscoe, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Scott Dixon 3rd, James Hinchcliffe, and Elio Castroneves rounding out your top 5. And Catherine's turned around in the opposite direction. That's because they brought her in through pit out with the tow vehicle to try and speed that process up. Now the crew will turn her around and see if they can diagnose the issue. She was not in any form of race car last year, and the 3 years prior to that, she was running the DTM series over in Europe. Again, nobody takes advantage of the yellow, so it looks like everybody's going to stay outside on the track. So we will go side by side, and we'll see you back here at St. Petersburg on the other end. So we'll be going back to green flag racing next time to the line, and we will be working lap number 18 at that point.
And Marty, this is the first race of the season, but it's also the first race for our new race director, Bo Barfield. And some changes have happened. Previously, the start and restarts were called out of race control. Bo has turned that over to the starter. So this start will be under the command of the starter in the flag stand, whether he likes the lineup to give the green.
And you saw our race leader. That's Ryan Briscoe, second place, Ryan Hunter-Ray. Behind him in third will be Scott Dixon. Then James Hinchcliffe in fourth. And rounding out the top five, Elio Castroneves. One other change to the series. Once the green flag is dropped, you no longer have to wait to get to the start-finish line before you pass. As soon as the flag drops, you are allowed to pass. Ryan Briscoe has selected the inside, as we expected. Paul Blevins has the flag in hand. They come up to speed, and we're back.
Green flag, green flag. We are green, we are green.
Everybody seemed to make it through turns 1 and 2. Boy, a quick little flip of the wheel by Hinchcliffe.
And Hinchcliffe's on the inside, and that's called defending your line, which is now allowed this year. Previously, you would have to have run on the race line, but he twitched the car coming out, slow to the next turn, defended his line, kept his position.
If he had changed lanes again, that would have been the definition of blocking according to the new director. There's Elio Castroneves. In fact, there's your top four coming through your screen. Making the turn 10 on the Dan Weldon way.
Right now it's a Chevrolet leading, along with a Honda being second, and then another Chevrolet followed by
Nice restart there, pal. Real nice.
And obviously, being out front has been an advantage. We saw Will Power get the early lead. Now Ryan Briscoe is picking up where Will left off. Here we go, a pass down. That's Mike Conway on the inside as he takes that position. A little farther back, we've got side-by-side action as well. And
Charlie Kimball didn't really do much to block him with that, and that was a smart move by Charlie.
Coming down towards turn number 4 again on this 1.8-mile street layout. There you see Will Power. He's in the back of that line.
Now what Will was hoping for, so we're going to watch a replay here, going through the tight sections 4 through 9. Side by side, all the way through, some great action here. Here comes Will Power, and that's on the outside. He's out of the groove, Marty, and into the gray, and that could have been very bad. His car could have slid out from underneath him. Let's watch. So he's trying to make his way. Remember, he did that pit stop. It put him back in the pack. And that could have been very difficult right there.
Boy, it cost him a lot of positions. You saw Simon Pagenaud get by him, as did Justin Wilson. So the advantage that he had on the pit stop, he gave it away there.
Well, what he's hoping for when he does it, yes, he comes in and gets fuel. Did he have a problem? We don't really think so, but he has to count that maybe you can get through the pack here.
Oh, no.
Right now, James Jakes.
19, James Jakes is into the wall. And that is at turn 10. And as you can see by the skid marks, he's not the first one to hit that barrier. Here on course, we have our second caution.
And that wall has been moved back about 1.5 feet from the racetrack last year.
Let's get an update from pit lane. Vince, what are you hearing on James Jakes?
He had just come in, James Jakes had just come in a moment ago. He had gotten the nose of the car banged up on that restart. As a result, he had to come back in, get a new nose. He was trying to catch up to the pack. Apparently went off. All he came onto the radio and said to the team was, "I'm sorry, guys."
All right, let's go back and take another look at it.
Come down here. It's a very bumpy section. We talked about how bumpy this track. It looks like he's carrying too much speed in. Wasn't far enough over to the right-hand side of the track to get the proper angle. Didn't seem like he slowed the car down enough, and you just run out of space, Marty. Run out of road.
He had just come out of the pits, and now he's into the wall with our second caution flag. As the Hamaltro safety crew trying to extricate the car from the tire barrier.
No, and he has been new to IndyCar. Last year, he did a very good job as the season started to wear on. He started to run very competitively.
It looks like James was having a little problem with the the belts perhaps, because they're reaching down in there. I don't know if they're trying to get him out or whether or not he's going to try and drive this thing back.
Those things do get stuffed into the tires quite deep. Those wings, especially the new biplane wing that we have, can really get stuck and lodged inside those tires.
And in case you're interested, if you smash up the full front wing, it's about $12,000 to replace it.
And as a driver, when you know you've done that damage, you feel bad.
We're hearing that pit lane is going to be open, and now the question is anybody going to take this time?
As we saw them working on James Jake's car, I think the car is stuck in gear, so it looks like he has a problem with, or that it was just really lodged in the tires. There you go. Yes, lodged in the tires.
All right, so let's see if anybody's going to peel off and head down pit lane. Yes. And another yes, and a third yes. So not everybody in that top 9 that has yet to pit, but here comes Ryan Briscoe as he peels off, as does Barrichello and the 38 of Graham Rahal. Let's send it to Jamie Little.
Roger Penske making the call for Ryan Briscoe. The electrical problems have been fine. Loose is the call for black sticker tires down and away. Ryan Briscoe is out.
And you saw the captain, Roger Penske, at age 75. He still stands on that wall the entire race. As those cars that did take the opportunity to pit, they're going back out the same way they came in. And as we get back to the track action, we're going to step aside just for a second. We'll be back after a word from your ABC stations. Back here under our second caution, and while we were away, the 11 of Tony Kanaan came to a stop. Jamie Little has reported that a battery issue again, and this is something that the Chevys have had here in the early go. And Jamie, you got more for us?
Well, the team said, Tony, stay in the car. Let's get a jump battery. Tony just talked to the Homaltro safety crew. They told him they don't have that. He indeed needs to get out of the car. So very unfortunate for Tony Kanaan. He had just told his team, have a little faith, guys. We're going to be good today, and his battery died.
And I think what's happening here, Marty, is that the new system with the hand clutch and everything running on electronics, if the battery has died, possibly he could not get that into neutral. And with the old foot clutch, obviously, you could clutch the car, and right now they can't move the car because the car is still locked in gear.
Well, 6 of his prior 7 starts here, he finished in the top 5, many of those in the top 3. In fact, only once, before today, he finished 10th back in 2010. Today, it's going to be deeper than that. We're going side by side.
ESPN's coverage of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg on ABC. Brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the IZOD INDYCAR Series. GoDaddy.com, domains, websites, and everything in between. And find our energy when you gotta get stuff done.
We are still under our second caution here after James Jakes hit the tire barrier in turn number 10. They're still working on that area. They have to get the tires rearranged and secured. Also, during the caution, we saw Tony Kanaan, who prior to today had completed every single lap raced here at St. Petersburg in his 7 prior starts. But not today, as there you see the car as it has been pulled behind the wall with an apparent battery issue. Meanwhile, they continue to motor around under the caution with race leader Scott Dixon. We can tell you the top 6 cars have yet to pit. That's Dixon, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Elio Castroneves, James Hinchcliffe, Marco Andretti, and E.J. Vizo. Let's take a look at our Firestone lap leaders while we have a chance, because Will Power led the first 11 laps. Ryan Briscoe then led 9, and now Scott Dixon has been leading the last 4.
So we're 24 laps into this. We did hear from the teams, although they were all trying to figure out what their fuel mileage would be, that they could get 28 to 30 laps on that 18.5 gallon tank. Obviously running underneath yellow, you can add some laps to that. So Scott Dixon might be looking for an opportunity here shortly to get in and get fuel and service.
Well, while they continue to make the repairs over in turn number 10 at Weldon Way, we'll step aside one more time, come back to St. Petersburg. Still under our second caution here at St. Petersburg. And just in case you're tuning in, well, let's get you updated as to what's happened here in the season opener so far. A good, clean start, unlike a year ago. What a difference a year makes. Everybody's gotten used to the side-by-side starts as they made it safely through turn number 1. And Will Power jumped out to a very early lead. But then James Jakes brought out our first caution as he hit our second caution, I should say, as he hit the tire barrier. And during that caution, Tony Kanaan had a battery issue, something that has happened to some of the other Chevy teams, and his car is behind the wall, and he is with Jamie Little.
And Tony Kanaan talking things over right now. TK, we heard you mention the battery. You guys didn't have any issues in practice. What was your first indication things were going wrong?
From lap 1, I started to get the low voltage alarm. I don't know if, you know, either was the alternator. I mean, the battery, I said it was a battery because my dash went blank. And with the electronics nowadays, you cannot pull out a gear if the dash is not working, if you don't have the battery. So either the alternator or whatever it calls it, and they just made the battery die. Obviously, we're still investigating. Maybe having the in-car camera helped too. We never had that until now. So it's unfortunate, but you know, those problems, you know, you expect it when it's a new car, a new engine. You know, unfortunately, it happened to us. So I think it's a beautiful day for racing. What a beautiful day. The crowd is being awesome. So I think we had much bigger problems in life than just dropping out of the race. It's sad, but I want to thank my crew guys, and you know, let's keep thinking about that. And that's all I can think about it.
Always optimistic, Tony Kanaan.
Good thoughts from TK as we are still under this caution. And you saw there was Simona Di Silvestro. She has made it back to pit lane. And Rick, what happened to her during this caution period?
You know, it's the same basic problem that we heard from Catherine Legg. It just died on the track for no reason. They got it back. They've been working on it. They're still trying to download some of the information. What they've said is they may go ahead and push it all the way into the back and work on it and get it back out. At this point, what the team says is we need test time. Think about this. Some of these teams haven't had a lot of testing time, and so their goal at this point is to do their best to get the car back on the track so they can get some miles behind them.
And you can tell by the logo, she is another of the Lotus drivers. There are a total of 5 right now. All right, let's reset the top 5 for you. It is Dixon, Hunter-Reay, then Castroneves, Hinchcliffe, and Andretti. That's your top 5. Then rounding out the 10, it's Vizo, Sato, Franchitti, Conway, and Briscoe. And the top 6 have not yet pitted.
Green flag control.
Green flags in the air.
We are green.
Again, another good, clean start here at St. Petersburg as Scott Dixon gets out to the early lead.
You saw Marco in the 26 machine having a look on the inside of Elio Castroneves, the number 3 shell car. Didn't get it done in turn 1. Very aggressive. Boy, Scott Dixon didn't wait for the green flag very long there in that restart, did he? He was gone.
As you can see, he's jumped out over Ryan Hunter-Reay by about 3/4 of a second.
Marco looks like he is a little quicker than Elio right now.
Now, the top 6 cars are still on the red tires that they started the race with. From 7th through 14th, they are on the more durable black.
We talk about the red being more...
Nice job, real
and
nice.
then also maybe wear it a little quicker, but Will Power certainly did a great job in setting his fastest lap on a set of red tires, Marty, that had been used previously.
15 at Takuma Sato came over to join Bobby Rahaal's team this year. And Sato, you know, the book on him through the past couple of seasons, very fast, but has that moment where he makes a mistake that costs him a chance at finishing on the podium and sometimes end up crashing.
He sat on pole both in road course and oval last year with all that Formula 1 experience. Probably surprised some people because he was on pole on an oval type track. And here's guys you mentioned very fast, but has to get to the end.
Bobby Rahal has harped on one thing, patience this year. And then let's check in on James Hinchcliffe as he is running in the 6th position. What are you hearing down there, Vince?
Well, Marty, as you and Scott were addressing, they're still on those red tires, those top 6 cars on a 2-stop pit stop strategy. The red's not as durable as the black, so James Hinchcliffe saying that the losing grip, the handling starting to go away from the car, giving you an indication that those reds might be wearing down a bit.
We're working lap number 31 on board with James on the right side of your screen. You can see how bumpy the street course really is here, as everything just shakes. And the other thing we cannot tell you, folks, with these new engine configurations, we have no real clue as to really how far these cars can go, especially with the number of caution laps.
Well, they certainly note on the pit box, in the pit lane, through the use of telemetry, remember.
Yeah, but they're not telling us.
Well, they're not going to tell us. And they note that that's gone, Marty, because you now have engine competition with manufacturers, so it's going to be a very close secret to all new teammates.
We continue to watch James Hinchcliffe. 4 different teams right now in the top 5. Ganassi up front, Andretti in second and fourth, Penske in third, Bobby Rahaal's team in 5th. So we're hearing now from pit road, we could see some pit stops by that top 6 within the next 5 laps. So we're going to give you word from the ABC stations and come back and be ready for them. The Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg the last 4 years has not been kind to that man, Scott Dixon. But right now, those are all memories of the past, because he is out front by a half a second over Ryan Hunter-Reay. Elio Castroneves is third, Marco Andretti, and Takuma Sato is the top 5 with James Hinchcliffe in 6th. Those 6 cars have yet to make a pit stop, and we are working lap 34 of 100. These cars are going to try and make it on 2 stops.
Well, we talked about before, knowing that they could go, we were told 28 to 30 laps, had some yellow caution periods in there. Does that number now become getting to 38, maybe getting to 40, 45? We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, saw one of the cars peel off. I thought it was Ryan Hunter-Reay. And as he has decided to come down pit road, there he is. So Dixon stays out. And Ryan Hunter-Reay is heading towards Jamie Little.
Ryan Hunter-Reay has been the best Andretti car all weekend long. You heard the countdown there. He's just going to take those reds off, and happily, I'm sure, as they have lost complete grip, they're going to put some black sticker tires on there. The primaries not as gummy, don't have as much grip. Good pit stop, 9.4. Ryan Hunter-Reay is down and away.
All right, Jamie, and here comes E.J. Vizo as he has peeled off to come down pit road. And he has made his stop and making his way back out onto the track. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon, our race leader, right behind him, Elio Castroneves. Those 2 have yet to make stops. Same with Marco Andretti and Takuma Sato and James Hinchcliffe. Anybody come this time? Yep, looked like the 3rd place may have pulled off Marco Andretti. And there is also James Hinchcliffe as he has come off. It's a long, slow drive as they head down towards Vince.
Well, and Marty, one of the issues for James Hinchcliffe is the fact he said it just had a little bit of understeer. They lost a little bit of grip, but they're not going to make any chassis adjustments. It's just going to be 4 tires and filling it up with fuel for James Hinchcliffe. Watch the exit of the pit box using that hand clutch. The exit of the pit box, he does get out smoothly. A lot of drivers have had trouble with that this weekend.
We can tell you that's a little longer stop at 11 seconds plus, and Marco Andretti's stop was quicker. He is already back out on track. So here are your top 2. They still have yet to pit. In fact, they are the only ones.
Still good here, Scott.
We're hearing now that those 2 are laid out with fresh tires and ready to go. And they're going to stay out at least 1 more lap.
And both those drivers, with their experience, Marty, are very good at making fuel mileage. That means rolling the car into the turn, getting on the gas smoothly, not stabbing the throttle. Smooth under braking. Dario Franchitti is another one. They might get another lap more than anybody else out of their competitors.
Heading down towards turn number 4.
And when you get through that section that they're at right now, 4 through 9, it looks like Elio really gets caught up to Scott Dixon. But Dixon knows there's nowhere for him to pass, so he can go through that section a little slower and try to save fuel, knowing that Elio really doesn't have a way to get around.
That third car in the screen is Takuma Sato. He's 2 seconds behind the race leader.
Okay, we'll pit on this lap. We'll pit now. Pit.
Okay, you heard the call. Sato.
Front tires full fuel here, Scott. No front wing.
And Elio's going to come right with Dixon. 60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed. And Elio's going to hit his box first, so let's send it to Vince Welch.
Rick Reineman is on the outside front. 29 years over the wall for Elio Castroneves. He reminded his crew, let's be smooth. They're also going to make a front wing adjustment for Castroneves. Jamie Little?
Scott Dixon very frustrated. He didn't get called in that first round of stops when his teammate did. This time they come in. 4 tires was the call. They filled it up with Sunoco fuel. Marty?
Both cars back out, and so now everyone has made at least the one stop. Your new race leader is Takuma Sato.
And for the guys that just left pit lane, you have to get up to speed quickly. They're very good at doing this. The tires do not have tire warmers on them, something that Barrichello mentioned that he was having to get used to. But here's the scenario. You have to get up to speed very quickly to be able to get out and get your speed up to a point where you're actually running race speed.
Let's reset it for you because Takuma Sato last pitted on lap 12. Mike Conway in second place pitted on lap 12. So did third place Dario Franchitti. But then right there in fourth car on your screen, Ryan Briscoe, he pitted on lap 21. So he has got 9 laps in hand over the 3 cars ahead of him. And for that matter, with Justin Wilson and Newgarden right behind him, they also pitted on lap 12. So the man in the catbird seat right now, if it stays green, appears to be the number 2.
So you mentioned Penske likes to split the strategy.
There's Josef Newgarden. Boy, he has been impressive for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing. Had a chance to meet the new partner, Wink Hartman. What an interesting guy. Made his initial money in oil. He also has several sports franchises. And as we move forward the back, there is Will Power coming into screen. Now, Power had dropped all the way back to 14th, but through the cycling of the pit stops, finds himself in 8th place right now, 6.5 seconds behind the race leader. Takuma Sato bounces his way through turn number 1. His lead right now, Rick DeBrule, is 2.3 seconds over Mike Conway.
Yeah, that's actually dropped off just a little bit. At one point, it was up to 4 seconds, so Conway's starting to reel him in. They've been telling him, good pace, but you need to keep pushing. Now, it's important to point out that on each restart, Takuma Sato has been able to gain positions, about 3 positions on each restart, so that's helped him out. I was talking with Jay O'Connell, who's his engineer, and he was saying that one of the things that impressed him about Sato is his ability to get up to speed quickly. And I think that's exactly what he's been showing on these restarts.
You saw Bobby Rahal looking on the right-hand side of the screen as his driver continues to lead this race. It's the 5th time in his career that he has led. I should tell you that while this was going on, Sebastian Bourdais came in for a pit stop, another one of the Lotus drivers in the number 7. He comes back out in 22nd position. 2.4 seconds. Let's go back a little deeper in the field as they come out of turn number 14. And there's Barrichello, and there's our race leader.
The hardest thing sometimes to do when you're leading is just to make sure you keep hitting your points, not making a mistake. You're trying to judge how fast you're going. Sometimes easier to be the guys behind chasing the guy that's in front. And you see he's still got the red tires on. We heard that the red tires do go off after a while, and as a driver you will start to feel that because you start to turn the steering wheel and maybe the front's starting to do what we call understeer. We had a report on that earlier. That's where the front will not turn when you ask it to. The front wheels don't react in time, so you end up having to slow the car down through the turn just a little bit.
Well, There's an interesting observer. That's David Letterman, and of course a part owner of Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, as he is listening in and looking on with all of us here at St. Petersburg. Last year, Takuma Sato, his best finish in the series was a 4th at Mid-Ohio. He is now currently the leader, our 4th different leader. He has led a total of 7 laps, and he is out in front by 1.9 seconds over Mike Conway. Let's get you caught up on exactly what's happened so far in our races. We're working lap number 44 of 100. Start of the season, very clean, unlike last year when we balled up about a handful of cars and then some in turn number 1. And the early leader was Will Power. We had 2 cautions so far. The second one brought out when James Jakes just couldn't get it slowed down enough, and he hit the tire barriers in turn number 10. Also during that caution, it was to Tony Kanaan having a battery issue that literally would not let him get the car running, and he is behind the wall. And as we mentioned, there is Sato. Servia, another of the Lotus drivers, had the pit stop and looked like it stalled on the way out. Again, that hand clutch maybe.
We're not really clear, but it looked like he at least got 1 pit box down. If it fires and goes, he will be good. If it's an electrical issue like we've seen with some of the other cars, hopefully they get that reported.
Sato's lead is dwindling. Now remember, he last pitted on lap 12, as did the man chasing him in 2nd and 3rd, Mike Conway and Dario Franchitti. The lead right now is about 1.4 seconds. Look at this slicing and dicing as you've got Ed Carpenter, as 2 guys are all over him. The 3 of Elio Castroneves, the 26 of Marco Andretti, James Hinchcliffe and E.J. Vizo tagging along as well.
Now, you know, Ed is known as an oval driver, but he's been working hard on his road course ability, has hired a driving coach by Lee Bentham to work with him on practice weekends and also here for race events.
And he is also the owner of the team this year. As told us both, he says it's the first time I've ever actually had an office that I had to go to during the week. He says he's been spending a lot of time in that office.
And you can see an improvement in his ability, although he's not just getting into the turn.
And he gets turned.
Nice and smooth here, pal. Be patient, getting around.
Well, what that was, I think he wanted to come in the pit lane. He just needs to learn on a road course, you've got to get on the gas, accelerate into pit lane, because there will be somebody behind you very close. Now, these cars do have what they call the anti-stall device, although we have not understood that they are working completely all the time. As you can see with Elio Castroneves, looks like the 20 car of Ed Carpenter looks like he wants to come into pit lane. What he should have done was accelerate a little harder coming into the turn, just like you were going to be going onto the racetrack, and then dive into the pit lane. We now get to watch from James Hinchcliffe's car. Everybody's on the gas, just tags him on the back. That new rear wing fender flares, we'll call it, that's at the back, did not have that wheel-to-wheel contact that might have been in last year's car.
Still waiting as the full course caution has come out, and that'll wipe out what 1.4 second lead that Takuma Sato had. And here we are at the end of lap 46. And we should tell you that IndyCar is taking a look to see if there is any shall we say, aggressive driving on the part of Castroneves. So it looks like also, as we can tell, that Dario Franchitti is going to go to the red, softer compound, alternate tire. And it'll be interesting to see how many people actually take advantage of this pit stop. If you're Ryan Briscoe, you've got 9 laps in hand over everybody around you, both in front and in back of you. Briscoe right now in 4th position. Do you stay out or you come in?
Well, a great call by the captain. We're always happy with that. But remember, we talked about going 30, maybe 32 laps maximum. Yellow laps, you get a little bit more. At lap 46, you're definitely going to need 1 stop and then a splash. Do you risk it? That's a good question. Yeah, that comes from the call from inside. You're not going to get that many more laps out of your fuel tank.
Pit lane is open, so we'll find out who is going to take and who may stay out.
See, I'm getting, if you go green for the rest of the time, Marty, you're saying 28, 30 laps, as I mentioned, so you're going to have to get to lap 70 to before you come in for the final stop.
Well, Sato wanted to come in. He didn't realize they were there, and they split him, and they went around, and Sato ends up losing ground on the pit stop. Let's send it to Rick.
Takuma Sato brings it in. He was complaining about understeer early on. Basically, that's the condition of these cars. By the way, Rahal Letterman hasn't led here since 2008 when they led with Ryan Hunter-Reay, so not a bad job, all things considered. And he's away.
Other pit stops continuing. The Reds and Dario Franchitti, his time at 10.7. A pretty good stop there for the 10 crew. Also, there is the 12 going back out with Will Power. Rubens Barrichello, I thought I saw in that mix as well. We'll double check on that. So he did pit. The cars that stayed out right now, as there is the 18 of Justin Wilson being pushed down towards his pit box, so a problem there. So we'll have to check in and see what happened with Justin. He had a pretty doggone good race going until this moment, but this is some of the things we knew could happen with the new engine configurations, and it is. Stay with us. Our third caution just about to conclude, and that was as a result of the spin. And IndyCar officials have looked at it. They said it was not an aggressive move on the part of Helio Castroneves, no penalty. And there are the tires as the cars come across the top of your screen. You'll see who is on the blacks, who's on the reds. Scott Dixon, as the leader, picks the inside. Now the top 6 all last pitted between laps 34 and 37. When we go back to green flag racing, we'll be working lap number 50.
Green, green, green.
Green's out. Here we go. And again, another good restart through turn 1 here at St. Petersburg. E.J. Vizo took a peek down inside, and Hinchcliffe and the 7, Sebastian Bourdais, going after each other, and Hinchcliffe gets the better of it. Out the back of the 27.
Interesting to watch Hinchcliffe on those starts. He'll learn to get up there a little closer to the group and be a little bit more aggressive. Remember, just his second year in the series against all those veterans that have a lot more experience than him. E.J. Vizo now starting to have a little look. If he can get that opportunity down the straightaway, he's definitely going to have more power.
That is for position between the 7 of Bourdais and the 5 of E.J. Vizo. Bourdais last pitted on lap 39.
Nice work, Sebastian. P7. Good work.
Vizo last pitted on lap 34. In fact, of all the cars that came in at lap 47, it's Briscoe in the catbird seat as, underneath. Wheel-to-wheel action. Nicely done on both parts. No contact.
Well, very tough to get past Sebastian Bourdais with all his experience that he has. Vizo definitely has a little bit more horsepower with the Chevrolet engine. Probably should have had a cleaner run sooner coming down the straightaway on him.
Good tight action going on right now. On board with Dario Franchitti. Franchitti, a 4-time champion. Of course, the man in that number 7, a 4-time champion over in kart.
You've got Ryan Briscoe just ahead of him in his Izod Penske machine.
Just to give you an update, we'll let you know whatever happened to Will Power. Well, he is right now shown back in 19th position.
So Sebastian Bourdais in the golden black car. He gets out of the turn on 13 and 14 really well. The number 5 Citgo machine, Vizo, just can't get out of that turn fast enough to take advantage of his power going down the straightaway.
Well, we mentioned Will Power, and there he is. And Jamie, what's going on with Will Power? He's 13 seconds behind the race leaders.
Definitely not where we're used to seeing him at this particular racetrack, or any road course for that matter. They knew this would happen, just the strategy that they're on. Remember, they pitted early in this race. Now, the tires they put on are the reds, but they're scuffed reds. These are the same tires he ran at the end of qualifying. They're their worst set, and he knows that. They're communicating. He's just trying to get around cars one at a time.
Well, he pitted here on lap 47, as did a bunch of the other cars. This was our pole sitter. The top 5 were Chevrolets. The front row was all Team Penske. Are you a little more concerned?
Well, I'm just wondering whether or not, you know, he set the downforce on his car, the wing angles, to give you as much grip in the turns or a lower amount of grip in the turns. That's really a preference by the driver working with his engineer. If he had set that as if he was going to be out front leading all day long, maybe he's just not running good when he's behind traffic, which is generally in front of him now.
Well, there's 11 cars in front of him that pitted on the very same lap, so this is going to be interesting. One cool thing that Will's doing for us in the 12 car, he is streaming live on IndyCar Mobile. It's only from Verizon, and if you've got it, you've got Will. There's your race leaders. We move back up front. That is Scott Dixon, 1.4 seconds over Ryan Hunter-Reay. And Will Power's teammate at Team Penske, Helio Castroneves, is in 3rd. Vince?
Helio's been pretty happy with his race car up until this point. They were in a more of a fuel conservation mode. Remember, he's on a 2-stop strategy, but they just told him to turn it up, go to full fuel rich, because they want to make sure he stays up with those top 2 cars, that there's not as much separation between the two.
See his last lap compared to the leader's last lap, and he has opened up some ground over 4th place, which is Marco Andretti, about 1.5 seconds to be exact. We mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, this is a very important season for Helio Castroneves, coming off of his worst season since joining Team Penske. No wins and 11th place in the championship.
And the thing about teammates, Marty, all the time is that you compare yourself to your other cars that are on the team. So for him, it's Will Power and Ryan Briscoe. And that's really what you try to make yourself faster than your teammates. And if you're 3rd all the time, then the team manager, team owner look at you and say, hey, why aren't you as fast as the other 2 guys?
Well, and last year was a contract year, and he talked to us about the stress of what that's like.
In the situation that every driver, not only myself, but anyone, doesn't know what's going to happen the following season, so it's kind of like a very difficult moment or anxiety, you know. But for me, I've been with the team for a long time. I enjoy to be in this team, and I have fun with the team. I didn't even thought, you know, other possible scenario, you know, and certainly I cherish a lot what we have between Castroneves and Team Penske, and hopefully this year we're going to be a much better, different season from last year.
Well, Castroneves finished 9th in this race last year, 4th the year before. He is the only 2-time winner of this event, winning back-to-back in 2006 and climbing the fence again in 2007.
He's also 36 years old, so he knows he's getting to the twilight of his career. Well, this driver we mentioned is Rubens Barrichello at 39.
We talked about how Team Penske had the front row at the start of the race. Here's where they're running: 3rd, 8th with Briscoe, 19th with Will Power. So the race continues out front with Scott Dixon trying to snap a bad streak here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Back after a word from your ABC stations. Well, Helio Castroneves, yeah, he wants to get back into victory lane. He's running 3rd right now. Ryan Hunter-Reay, well, winner last year on circuit. And, of course, Scott Dixon, the man out in front of both of them, leading this race at a track that the last 4 years have just been so horrible to him. He doesn't even want to be reminded. His lead right now over Ryan Hunter-Reay, 1.1 seconds, and then another 0.6 of a second back to Helio Castroneves, rounding out the top 5, and you can't even see him in the screen right now because Marco Andretti is 7 seconds behind the race leader, and James Hinchcliffe is right behind him in 5th.
You've got a lot of different power plates coming into play right now. Dixon obviously in a Honda, Hunter-Reay in a Chevrolet, and Castroneves in a Chevrolet. Wondering about the fuel mileage. We've been discussing that a little bit, Marty, just on who's going to be able to make it or not.
Keep an eye on the 7 of Sebastian Bourdais. He is the best running Lotus driver right now, as he is running in that 6th position, and he pitted last on lap number 39. So he's put himself in a pretty good position.
And you can see he does not have the speed down the straight. Wiesel keeps trying to dive on the inside of him going into 1. But Sebastian Bourdais, with his experience, taking advantage of those new carbon brakes, driving very deep into the turn. Very talented driver, both in sports cars, has run Le Mans for Peugeot.
Le Mans, France is his home.
A champion in Indy cars 4 times. I remember we went through that segment that he just was unbeatable.
Well, they continue to motor on in their position. The man running up front is Scott Dixon, coming to the start-finish line.
Doing well here.
There'll be 41 laps to go, and yeah, they're telling him he's doing well, because let's show you what it's been like for Scott in the streets of St. Petersburg. Back in 2008, suspension on the left rear, and yeah, bad news. Then this gets worse. 2009, and you come back in 2010, you think it's going to be better. Watch as he caroms off both walls in turn 9, and he's on the hook once again. And then, of course, last year, this was the first lap carnage on the start, and Mr. Dixon ended up coming home in 16th position that day. He was able to get back out. So he's put all those bad memories behind, and he wants a good one here. And so far, he's only got the 2 guys behind him giving him any kind of pressure. But they are trying to reel him in, and they have. Ryan Hunter-Reay's cut it down to under 0.7 of a second. Jamie, what do you have?
Well, he is. He's trying to close that gap, but the team wants otherwise.
Again, don't worry about Dixie here. Back up to us. You're doing good. Just keep on saving me fuel here. Anything you can. Help. Great job on that last lap. Help me out here. Come on now. You got to help me out here a little bit. Helio's not going to try to come around you. Don't worry about Dixie.
You hear him saying, help me out here. That means help save some fuel, and that's hard to do when you're watching the race leader ahead of you. He should be pitting in about 3 laps.
Well,
Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Yeah, and you're right, because he's 3 laps to the bad on these other 2. Dixon pitted on lap 37, so did Castroneves. Ryan pitted on lap number 34. So if they could somehow sneak out and get into that same sequence with these guys, it might benefit.
Lap last wasn't very good. You got to help me some here. Go back to the way you were the lap before.
You know, as a race car driver, Marty, there's nothing worse than hearing that. Yes, you're trying to make some fuel mileage, but you know something, you're a racer, and it's very difficult to sit back and be patient and sort of throttle off and watch that driver ahead of you start just walk away.
Well, the other part you have to sort of figure into the equation. We've had.
It looks like your teammates are wanting reds, and that's what we think we should go with for the last stop. We're going to give you reds.
You heard the call there. They're going to go back to the reds. Take a look from high above as they work through turns 2 and up to 3, and then head towards 4. That's your top 3 here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. There's the top 3 that have sort of sprinted away from 4th place James Hinchcliffe. It's Dixon, Hunter-Reay, and Castroneves. Let's take a look at our Firestone lap leaders, as we've had a total of 5 different leaders and 5 lead changes. Dixon has now led the most. Pole sitter Will Power led the first 11. Then Takuma Sato, Ryan Briscoe, and Dario Franchitti has led 1 lap.
You know, watching these guys right now with Dixon and Castroneves last pitted 27 laps ago, I'm adding up right now, Marty, that those 2 guys are probably 3 laps short. And Hunter-Reay last pitted 30 laps ago. I got to believe that he's going to be in difficult, dire straits also.
Well, let's talk a little strategy. What about it, Jamie Little?
Well, Mike Hull is the strategist for Scott Dixon. Talking to him now. He's talking to his driver. They're getting close to coming into pit. Mike, how are you guys looking right now? When will you pit?
We're about 5 or 6 away right now. So if we get there with the mileage that Scott's making, then we'll see what happens at the end.
Did you make a decision yet on tires?
We'll leave that up to Scott on the sequence, on the countdown, and we'll figure it out.
All right, well, he's saying he's happy all the way around. Let's go over to Vince.
With John Erickson. John Elio, does he have enough fuel to make it to this next stop to get to the end?
Yeah, he's good. He's good. We're all set. About another 5-6 laps, we'll be in.
Thanks, John. Marty?
And while you guys were updating us on that situation, we can tell you that EJ Viso did peel off and did come down pit road. So he has made his stop, surrendering 5th position.
Well, it seems like everybody's making a little bit better fuel mileage than what we were led to believe. And if they can really do another 4, 5, 6 laps until the next fuel stop, that will put them in the window to get right to lap 100. I still believe it when I see it.
A lot of good racing going on right here. 26 is Marco Andretti. He is running in 6th position right now. Then you've got Takuma Sato, Ryan Briscoe, Dario Franchitti in the mix. Simon Pagenaud is now up to 10th, and there's one of the cars peeling off. And
down on the front wing.
That was Marco Andretti that peeled in. You saw how fast he went into the pit lane. That's what Carpenter needed to do. Some passing going into turn 1 now.
Let's send it to Jamie.
And Marco Andretti has been complaining about his car a lot of understeer today. He's happy to make this pit stop, and his teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay will be coming as well. 4 tires here, may make a chassis adjustment. They see him reach down. It is a quick stop. Doesn't look like they made any changes to the front wing. 9.1, he's down.
And on the right side, you saw both Simon Pagenaud and Josef Newgarden getting around the 10 of Dario Franchitti.
Fuel conservation mode. I mean, really what's going on with that report on the 26. I think, Jamie, I think we did see just a little bit of front wing going to Marco's car, so hopefully that takes that understeer away for him.
Here comes Ryan Hunter-Reay as he is now pulled off and into pit lane. Jamie?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay just a little bit off strategy from Marco Andretti, his teammate. 4 stops, or 4 tires here. Meanwhile, the leader, Scott Dixon, was supposed to pit, and he didn't make it in. So 4 tires, meanwhile, for the 28. Vince?
James Hinchcliffe in the 27. They were going to go with the used reds. At the last moment, they went with the sticker blacks. Hinchcliffe says he feels like it gives him a little bit better run in the long haul as you see Elio chasing Dixon. Marty?
So now, who's going to blink first between these two, and how much fuel do they really still have?
Clear.
They have 14 seconds in hand over 3rd place, Sebastian Bourdais. Coming through turns 13 and 14. Do they come in this time?
Hey, countdown 1 now. Countdown 1.
Sounds like one more lap before pits. Just to let you know that these guys are turning laps about 1.5 seconds slower than their fastest lap that they've done so far today, Marty.
Let's just tell you that Will Power has also made a pit stop while all this was going on.
They go through this segment through turns 4 through 9. Dixon really gets off of throttle, as we see on the right-hand side of the screen. Catherine Legge looks like she's sitting on the tarmac there, just on the exit of 1 going to 2.
So this is the 2nd time that she's had an issue in today's race. Again, part of the Lotus contingent. She's not in a really dangerous area there, but we'll have to wait and see what IndyCar officials decide to do.
Well, if we go full course yellow, we'll probably take what I think is the 3 or 4 lap shortage that I'm calculating.
Pit on this lap.
And Dixon is going to come in this lap, and Castroneves stays out. So another lead change as Elio Castroneves takes over the top spot. We'll send it down to Jamie Little.
And Scott Dixon wanted to pit the last stop, or the last lap, I should say, and he missed it. So this time he makes it in. They had blacks laid out. They made the change. The driver wanted reds on. That's exactly what they did. No changes to the car. It's good.
31 laps to go, and Scott Dixon is back out 8.1 seconds. Good stop by the crew.
And this is where the drivers earn their money. Dixon has to get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Run hard. We're going to pit this time. Run hard.
Okay, so now you hear run hard. We're pitting this time. When Dixon pulled in, Elio would have driven as hard as he could. He wants to try and make up some time, so when he gets his service work done, leaves pit lane, that he comes out in front of Dixon.
Elio Castroneves has a 13-second lead over Sebastian Bourdais. That's right, Bourdais is going to inherit the race lead with this move right here. So Castroneves down to 60 miles an hour, and he's heading towards you, Vince Welch.
They pulled their front. We're good.
It's going to be a stop that's going to put Elio Castroneves on the used red tires. They were run a few laps in practice yesterday. Now remember, Elio has had some trouble this weekend getting out of the pits because of that hand clutch. They've worked on it a lot, so let's see if he gets a clean exit out. Pretty good. A little bit of a hesitation, but I'm going to try to close that gap now as Dixon is closing in on Elio into turn 1.
And we should update you because Takuma Sato is going to take the lead because Bourdais did also pit on that lap as he came around. So Unfortunately for Lotus, they didn't get a chance to lead in a lap officially. Sato back in front for the second time today. Ryan Briscoe has now cycled up into the second spot. Josef Newgarden is shown in third in the 67, so the rookie is running well right now. J.R. Hildebrand is in fourth, and Elio Castroneves is now shown currently in fifth. And Catherine Legg is out of the car, so it looks as though her day is done.
Difficult weekend for her. Didn't get much practice, as we noted before. Running with a smaller team. Should be looking forward to doing a better result next weekend.
Crossing the stripe, this time by 29 laps remaining here in this 100-lap event over the 1.8-mile, 14-turn St. Petersburg layout. Let's reset this stage for you because the top 4 cars all stopped on lap 47. Takuma Sato, Ryan Briscoe, J.R. Hildebrand, and Josef Newgarden. That's Charlie Kimball. He is making his last stop.
Good job, buddy. Good job.
Now for Sato, he's probably going to have to pit in anywhere from 5 to 7 laps, Marty, so that will put him back and start to bring forward Castroneves and Dixon.
Now Sato's lead over Briscoe is 5 seconds. That gives you an idea just how long that straight is on Dan Weldon Way. And you're right, the guys that are possibly in the catbird seat right now, based on the numbers we're seeing, as here comes Sato in, Rick.
Takuma Sato brings a car, and he got a little bit of a break. Sebastian Bourdais is the car that's directly behind him in pit lane. Because Bourdais came in just about a lap or so ago, he was able to get a straight shot in. They bring him in, make a quick adjustment to the wings, and he's back out.
Ryan Briscoe in the 2 car is in. He's taking the reds off, putting the black primary sticker tires on. No changes. They'll fill it up with Sunoco fuel. He gets the call from Roger Penske, and he's down.
And we were getting ready to say, as all this took place, the guys that are in the catbird seat right now, Elio Castroneves and Scott Dixon. Because J.R. Hildebrand is your race leader, 7th different leader, 8th lead change. But he also has to pit. The 2 guys behind him, Castroneves and Dixon, do not.
Flat out section going through there, about 130 up to 140 before you get into this hairpin. Back on the throttle. Let's listen, going through the gears up to 160 miles an hour to turn 1. All those bumps going into turn 1, we talked about them before. You can see the cars that handle well. J.R. Hildebrand, a little rougher than possibly Castroneves's. That's all to do with shocks and springs, the works that the mechanics do and the engineers do. And for Hildebrand, leading the event, he knows that Castroneves is behind him, and that will be for position. But his tires are probably just about worn out. Car will be sliding around, slipping around. It'll be difficult to put the power down.
Okay, our crack crew has found where Elio Castroneves got around Scott Dixon. It happened while the other pit stops were going on. And it's into turn 1. He's on the outside. What a move.
Nicely done.
Whoa.
Nicely done. And we talked about the defensive line that you're now allowed to do. So for Dixon, he was trying to make sure that he had the inside line covered, which he did. Castroneves went around the other way.
Elio forcing the issue here down the front straightaway. He's got to know that the 4 car's got to pit, but I guess he wants that clean air, and he wants to put some space between he and Scott Dixon.
Absolutely. That's all he's thinking about right now, is he knows that he's a little bit quicker. He just wants to get ahead.
Boy, did he pull away from Hildebrand down into turn number 4. Through that real tight, twisty complex, 5, 6, 7. Then up into turns 8 and 9. So it brings you along the bay here at St. Petersburg. And boy, look at the ground that the 3 car has opened up over Dixon. Dixon's hung up through that tight, twisty section behind Hildebrand.
Well, I'm also wondering whether or not maybe with Dixon, they're really running maybe a little bit more conservatively, trying to save fuel. Can they really get to the end? Do they think that they're a lap short? I know what they tell us off the pit box, but they know most of the teams all watch
25 to go, you're P1.
this telecast, that we have somebody watching it. He's not going to give away his secrets.
Uh-oh, Takuma Sato back in the pits. Rick, what's going on?
The car is stuck in second gear. Sato went out, had the pit stop. Everything was fine up until that point. For some reason, couldn't get out of second gear. They've changed the steering wheel. Now they're working on the back end. A moment ago, Sato was literally pounding on his helmet to be so close to having such a great finish, and then for whatever the mechanical reason is to cause him to stop in the pits, and he's stuck here for a while, guys. They're still working on it.
And when Rick reports that they're changing the steering wheel, that's the first thing they do when the car does not change gears, because the paddle shifters are on the steering wheels, no longer the stick shift in the cockpit at all. So if there's a problem, maybe the new steering wheel would actually correct that. In this case, not.
And a tough break for Takuma Sato, as he had led this race 2 different times today. Meanwhile, with 25 laps to go, soon to be 24, Helio Castroneves leads Scott Dixon by 3 seconds here at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Don't go away. This is far from over yet. We're going side by side.
ESPN's coverage of the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg on ABC. Brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the IZOD INDYCAR Series. IZOD. Go to IZOD.com to see the latest in IZOD color and performance. And Verizon, official wireless partner of the IZOD INDYCAR Series.
Beautiful view of St. Petersburg, Florida as the laps wind down. We have 22 to go. Let's update you. We got word Mike Conway has gearbox issues. A great run for AJ Foyt Racing, and it looks like it's going to go for naught. Right now he is 3 laps down. They're working on it. That's the man out front. Helio Castroneves, winless last year, finished 11th in the points, and right now he has a 4-second lead over Scott Dixon. My compatriot to my right thinks that maybe the 9 car is holding back because he needs to save some fuel.
1 lap to go, 21.
He pitted 1 lap differently than what Castroneves did, and when I'm watching the speeds right now, I mean, Helio Castroneves is running 103.5 and Dixon's running 104 flat, a half a second slower.
And there's Ryan Hunter-Reay in 3rd place. Jamie Little, let's get an update.
Well, Ryan Hunter-Reay, you see him in 3rd position. His crew all over him talking about fuel strategy.
Full lap, terrible lap. You got to help me here. We will not finish unless you get it down to 2:49. That we're not going to finish. We're not going to finish. If we finish, we're P3. You have to finish. We've got to save the fuel.
And they are relentless, telling him every single lap. They're telling him he's getting better. But Scott, you know better than anybody that's got to be tough.
Well, and the reason for that is because he pitted 3 laps earlier than since for Castroneves, who's out in the lead right now, maybe not getting as good a fuel mileage even to run, but both in Chevrolet-powered cars, Jamie. So it's just driving style and habits of the driver on track, and that's what Kyle Moyer, his strategist, is just harping on Hunter-Reay for.
And then you see James Hinchcliffe right behind him there in 4th place. There he is in the 27.
What a great job he's been doing. The Rookie of the Year last year. So talented, ability. They say in this business, Marty, you need to do 100% on the track and 100% off the track, and he certainly has that covered because he's so good with the media. He's so likable with the fans. He's going to be in this series a long, long time.
Said one of his goals is to give GoDaddy its first IndyCar win. If you remember, you say, wait a minute, I thought Danica got, well, she was actually driving the Motorola car back then when she won over in Japan. So that's one of his goals on his hit list for the year. And so far, doing fine here in the season opener.
I think he surprised a lot of people when he got into this car here this weekend. Ran well in testing, qualifying, being up in the Fast 6. That was something that was really not expected of him coming into Andretti right away.
The other thing is the team chemistry between the 3 drivers, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and James. They are getting along real well. In fact, they're starting to play pranks on each other. It's starting to remind some people, and oh no, Mike Conway's day is over as he has climbed out of the car, and that is a tough break for AJ Foyt. AJ is here, of course. If you didn't know, he's been battling a staph infection after surgery in his left leg, and He's here. He's lost about 40 pounds, but even he says that's a tough way to lose it. We're glad to see him back. But a tough end for their day because they have really done well.
And what's impressive, Marty, is the grip of these tires. These guys have driven these cars very, very hard. And with a brand new car underneath you, Firestone has done a great job of bringing a product that is lasting throughout these events. Now, you do see the pieces of rubber off line here just a little bit. The drivers have to make sure they negotiate through that, don't get onto what we call the marbles. But so far, both either the standard black wall tire or the optional red wall tire has done a great job.
Another guy that's done very well today and this weekend, Simon Pagenaud in the 77 for Sam Schmidt and Davey Hamilton Racing.
Viso needs to stop again. Don't worry about Viso.
He's under attack right now from Ryan Briscoe, but Pagenaud last year subbed 3 times, most of them at the last minute in the series. This is his first full-time ride in the series. In 2010, of course, he won an ALMS championship. Right now, he's doing everything he can to hold off Briscoe. They are running for 6th and 7th position.
2 talented road course racers. You talk about Pagenaud being involved in the Endurance Series. That's where Ryan Briscoe got his start with Penske, because he was driving the Porsche Penske Endurance car, got to work with them, and then he had the opportunity just to move into the IndyCar, so his patience paid off.
You got a quick glimpse of E.J. Viso right in front of those two. There you can see Viso off in the distance, comes through, and now they do. These guys are 17 seconds behind the race leader, but still a good day, especially considering Pagenaud, they had to make that engine change, and if you're not familiar with the new rule, if you change an engine anytime during the race weekend,
17 laps. Good job. Keep it up.
you lose 10 spots on the grid. And Pagenaud made it to the Fast 6 yesterday, qualified 6th, but then had to start 16th.
All his road course racing, he has never done an oval race. Every series he's gotten into, they did not run on oval. So when you talk to him, he knows that. He's anxious to get going on the ovals, but if anything is going to be a hardship for him this season, it'll be the oval races.
Of course, for Ryan Briscoe, he too trying to make a statement this year. His best finish last year in the series was a 2nd place run, and he's looking on how to separate himself.
This year, you know, I've got, you know, a newfound kind of motivation and drive to do well and fight for the championship. We'll see. I mean, setting myself apart, plan to do it by winning more races than those two, and we'll have to see. But you know, a lot of hard work's going to have to take place for that to happen.
Right now, he's 19 seconds behind his team-leading teammate, Elio Castroneves, who is running out front by 7 seconds now over Scott Dixon. This is the best action we've got on the track because Briscoe keeps the pressure on Simon Pagenaud. And it looks like both of them are starting to reel in E.J. Viso a little bit.
And remember, Viso certainly needs to come in for fuel. When you know that, as a driver like Viso is right now, you just push as hard as you can. There's no sense in backing it up and running a slower lap time trying to save fuel, because he's quite a few laps away from making it to the end.
Viso last pitted on lap number 65, Pagenaud on lap 70, Briscoe on lap 72. 16 laps to go here at St. Petersburg. Get a look at the new colors for EJ this year as he's running the Citgo colors, and let's get an update on his situation from Rick DeBrule.
Well, Scott Goodyear is definitely right. He is going to have to come in for a splash of fuel. They need about 6 extra laps. Even with about 10 or 11 laps of yellow, it still would have only gained maybe 4. They didn't come nearly close enough. The interesting story is that Jimmy Vass has been on the radio all day doing a couple things. First, coaching him through, trying to keep him calm. We know how he hasn't always stayed calm. But the other thing is that Viso last night got some food poisoning. He was up all night throwing up. As a result, he's been everything he could do to get into the car and drive today, but he's done a great job. And Jimmy's been saying, make sure you keep drinking.
It dehydrates you. Have you ever had that situation happen to you?
Well, I've been food poisoned, but never in a car. But I've driven the car when you're not feeling well, and it is a tough task just to drive the car when everything is correct. And the temperatures are 80 degrees today. Inside cockpit, probably 110, 115. I read a study recently where they said that the driver's body temperature will get up to about 103 to 105 degrees inside the cockpit.
Well, there is our race leader, Elio Castroneves. He has a 7-second lead over second place, Scott Dixon. Could he become the first and only 3-time winner here at St. Petersburg? He's got 14 more circuits here to traverse to claim that. There is Dixon. By any measure, this is a major improvement after the last 4 years here, where 3 times he did not finish, and last year he finished 16th.
It's interesting to note, Marty, that now Dixon's starting to run a little bit quicker laps than Castroneves is. Now Dixon maybe starting to feel comfortable that he can make it on fuel.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay, we already know he's been trying to save fuel, 8.9 seconds behind the race leader. And the guy who took over the GoDaddy ride from Danica Patrick, James Hinchcliffe. A good run in the 4th spot right now, 11 seconds behind the race leader. Then we got to drop back another 7 seconds before we pick up E.J. Vizo. And there he is, but remember, he does have to stop. He's running in 5th. And he stays out this lap. And now Ryan Briscoe has gotten around Simon Pagenaud. So move Briscoe into the 6th spot. And he has pulled away from Pagenaud since being able to get around him.
And the 12 car you saw just in the background there, Will Power, now starting to get close to Simon Pagenaud.
Will Power was our pole sitter. Finds himself right now in the 8th position. Ryan Briscoe has set sail away from Pagenaud. Let's go back and show you where he was able to get around Simon.
Looking to get a draft going down the straightaway. Will this happen under braking? Most likely. A little bit of a surprise. Marty gets in there. Pagenaud turned into the turn. And I like what Briscoe did. He just stayed directly behind him, didn't show his intentions too early, and then popped on the inside and surprised him.
So there is Briscoe, and Briscoe is again closing on E.J. Vizo. And at the top of your screen there, you see those last 2 cars as we again see Briscoe through the corner. That is Simon Pagenaud, and Will Power is closing in on him now. So Power has come back to life here, although he is 22 seconds behind the race leader.
For all these drivers pushing so hard right now, Marty, especially when you're in a new car, you know, this is when you're going to find out whether the seat is fitting correctly. If your steering wheel that you have now is maybe got some lumps on it, you're starting to get blisters on your hands. Your whole 3-layer fireproof suit is just soaked through from the sweat. And the sweat's dripping down into your eyes, and basically everything from head to toe is aching, but you know you just got to keep on pushing regardless.
Speaking of pushing, Will Power is pushing hard on Simon Pagenaud.
Not close enough by the looks of it this time to get it done.
Pagenaud in the Honda, Chevrolet Power for Will Power.
You hear that Will is not fully committed on the throttle when he starts to come through the turn. Pagenaud making maybe a possible defensive move.
Saw J.R. Hildebrand go through the screen. Here comes Dario Franchitti. He is shown in 10th place right now. And then on further back, you've got Newgarden, Kimball, and Marco Andretti in the number 26. And we understand that Marco had a bit of a moment just a moment ago.
There's the 67. Oh, there's Marco underneath our camera angle there for a second, just a little deep into turn 4, and then this happened going over the curb on the left-hand side as Newgarden was about ready to go around him.
Right behind him is Justin Wilson. Remember, Wilson had some issues on pit lane. He has been able to get back out and stay on the lead lap and has fought his way back into the position that he's in 14th. And behind him is Graham Rahal, former winner here at the track.
10 laps to go, 10 laps to go. Doing a great job, buddy.
You heard 10 laps to go, and Justin Wilson's going to take the spot from Marco Andretti.
makes you wonder now who's in fuel conservation mode. Remember, points are on the line for the championship. It is the first race of the season, but everybody's concentrating on the championship also when you're inside the car right now. You don't want to run out of fuel, stop on the track, and give away some type of a finish that will pay points towards the year in total.
And again, once Wilson got around Marco Andretti, he has been able to open up some ground. Let's find out if we can get the update on that 26. How about it, Jamie?
Well, Marco Andretti back in 14th, he has been complaining about his car and how bad it has been handling all race. And as a result, he's getting bad fuel mileage. So finally, the team told him, go flat out, go as fast as you can, because if we don't get a caution before the end of this race, we're going to have to pit anyway. So he's just pushing it.
Well, the only bad side about that is it's not really getting him away from anybody. He's pulled a little bit away from the 38 right there, but under braking, here comes Graham Rahal right back up on him.
Yeah, Marco just can't get down into the braking zone. I mean, when you saw how quickly Graham Rahal climbed over him, getting into a turn there, that was a remarkable.
And let's update you on Rubens Barrichello, the third car in line there, the number 8 BMC machine. Started this race in the 13th position. And right now he is running 16th. At the front of the pack and living life beautifully is Helio Castroneves. His lead has cut a little bit. It's down to 6.7 seconds, but there's only 8 laps remaining.
If there's anything going on fuel mileage wise, this is the time he's got to do it, where you just roll out of the throttle going into turn, carry the speed through. But he has such a gap right now on Scott Dixon that I'm not sure that he has to worry too much about slowing down. Not using all the track in this scenario. You can see you're sort of staying away from the walls when you've got this much of a lead. You're not trying to set lap records. Indeed, both those cars last time set the same lap time, both 63.7.
And we'll see what he turns this time. 103.9, a minute 3.9 seconds. So just 2/10 slower than the prior lap.
This is all about rhythm, Marty. This is where you're just getting through the turns, your braking zones, picking up the throttle, picking up your clipping points, as we call it, which is where you're trying to place your wheels through the turns at the apexes. This is something that all the drivers are trying to do. This is where you get into a rhythm, and this is the concentration level that's sometimes so tough for drivers. When you get close to the end of the race, sometimes your concentration just starts to wander a little bit. You can't have that here at St. Petersburg with as bumpy a circuit as this is, walls looming on both sides. It's the time where you need to be mentally strong.
Let's get an update on the situation of the 3-car. Vince, what are you hearing down there?
Well, the rest of the field may be hoping Elio runs short on fuel, but John Erickson, who handles his strategy, knew that if he could get Elio to that second pit stop, they would be fine. As you see, the president of Penske Racing, Tim Cindric, on the right. Elio, they knew if they could get to that second stop, they would be good. That was at lap 70, and they are indeed going to have enough. No concerns at all at this point. They've not even asked Elio to save fuel with that large lead.
6 laps remaining here on the 1.8-mile streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. And Helio Castroneves, the only man to win twice here, and he could become a 3-time winner. Here comes E.J. Vizo in. We knew he had to stop, Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, it all came down to fuel strategy. Early on, they decided to go one way, and as things sometimes go, it wasn't the right way. Interesting, they're putting just enough fuel. They're telling him they're going to have the guys push from the back, so it'll be an easy start, because stalls have been a concern.
Getting used to that new hand clutch. We've seen it from a number of the drivers this weekend.
Well, it's gone a lot better than I thought it would, because speaking to drivers from everything they did in testing, and they did practice pit stops when they were doing testing even as late as a couple of weeks ago. A lot of them had concerns in the pit lane coming out and making sure the timing was going to be right, but it looked like they got it done today.
You can see the difference. He's backed off a little bit of 104 on that last lap.
5 to go. 6.4 over 6.
And you heard the margin as it is now dropped down just a little bit to 6.4 seconds. But a second a lap is not going to happen here. Something's going to happen to this number 3 car for Dixon to have a chance.
And for Elio, who now lives in Fort Lauderdale, told me just drives over here. Takes a nice drive to get over to the St. Petersburg area. Enjoying living in Florida. Loves to train. Goes and runs on the beach every morning. Works with his trainer every day. girlfriend, Adriana, the young daughter. And all he wants to do, he says, is get back up on top.
Let's go back a little farther in the field because this is the best nose-to-tail battle we've got going. This is for position between Simon Pagenaud in 6th, Will Power in 7th, and J.R. Hildebrand in 8th. Now, they are a full 27 seconds behind the race leader. Marco Andretti's in, Jamie.
And they told him this will be a very, very fast stop. No time for any adjustments to make the handling better. Just enough fuel to get him to the end. He's down.
And that's going to drop him in the bottom third of the field with only now 4 laps remaining. On board with Hildebrand.
You know, for Hildebrand, who has a lot of road course experience, he's running against 2 guys right there that are just really specialists on the road course. So great run for him. Now for Elio, he comes out and he sees who's in front of him. It's Marco. Now Marco probably very professional, knowing that Elio is in the lead. He'll look in his mirror or hear on his radio.
Marco trying to keep from going a lap down, but for Elio Castroneves, I mean, let's remind everybody, last year was his worst year since joining Team Penske. No wins, 11th place in the points. How does that rub on you through the season?
Ready to go, Elio. Be patient with this.
Here you are, 3 laps away from victory.
6.2 over Dixon. You got room.
Well, as we're talking about that, Marty, here, and just saying being patient with this guy. As you mentioned, Marco might not want to go down a lap, and his team very smartly told Elio Castroneves 6.2 over Dixon, who's sitting behind Elio in 2nd place. So, you know, Elio doesn't want to get too close, but as a race car driver right now, you want to take advantage and maybe get past Marco. He will probably try this next time going down the main straight. We know that Marco's car is not working. You saw a big wiggle there for Marco. And Elio does not want to get so close that if Marco has a problem, he takes Elio in the time.
You see bits of rubber flying up. That's the pieces that they are picking up and flying into the air as they come out of some of these corners.
This is where probably Elio will start to get a little bit closer if he's thinking of getting past Marco going down the straight. The other thing he'll do is when he goes past the start-finish line, they'll give him the interval back to 2nd place, which is Dixon. It looks like he's going to take a run on it.
2 to go, 2 to go. You still got 6 seconds over Dixon. Be smart.
So Elio was very smart, just waited his time all the way around the rest of the circuit and passed in the area that was best suited.
So now less than 2 laps remain on this 14-turn layout here in St. Petersburg for Elio Castroneves. And what a statement that he is making as far as rebounding from last year's disastrous season here in the first race of the 2012 campaign.
Well, it's not only that, Marty, is that, you know, he was the leader of this team. He's been with Team Penske for 13 years, but, you know, a lot of people are talking that is there a new leader in Team Penske because Will Power's been so strong for the past couple of years, and as a driver within a team, if you're sort of getting shuffled along, you notice the loss in support. Tim Cindric was on the stand calling the shots for Elio and had been with him for years, and when they got close to run the championship last year, Tim Cindric got moved over to Will Power's car.
White flag is out for Elio Castroneves, the only man ever to win twice here at St. Petersburg, is now on his way to another victory. And what a way to start the 2012 campaign. Down into turn 4 for the last time. No pressure from Scott Dixon, who is 5.5 seconds behind.
Oh, but the driver's feeling the pressure, Marty, because when you're in there, you're just making sure that you're staying away from the wall, doing everything correctly. You're listening to everything in the car.
And into turn number 10, the last time on Dan Weldon Way. And one of the guys who knew Dan Weldon oh so well, and I'm sure he's thinking of him after he crosses the finish line. It's Elio Castroneves coming out of turn number 14, down the front straightaway, and oh, what a way to start the season. Win number 3 at St. Petersburg. Scott Dixon Dixon comes across the line in second. Third place to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Fourth place, a good run for James Hinchcliffe, and Ryan Briscoe rounds out the top 5. For Elio, his 26th career win. He also won back here in 2006 and 2007. And let's hear from the captain. How about it, Vince?
Great strategy from John Erickson, great car from the engineer Ron Rzuski, and a great drive from Elio Castroneves. Roger, how gratifying is this for that group after the struggles they had a year ago?
Well, I can tell you that's a terrific run. You know, with the new Chevy engine, the new cars, and John Erickson at the wheel there along with Elio and Rzuski. It's great. 3 good cars today. It's going to be a great season, and I want to thank our sponsors, Shell Pennzoil, for putting us up front, and just great to be back racing.
Congratulations.
And as Elio makes his way around, it was Chevrolet first with Dixon in a Honda second, then Hunter-Reay, Hinchcliffe, Briscoe, all in Chevrolets, rounding out the top 5. So 4 out of the top 5 positions going to Chevrolet.
And Elio will be climbing the fence on Dan Weldon Way. A very fitting tribute to his friend Dan Weldon.
And oh, so appropriate. In the past, he would have always done it between turns 1 and 2. But this time, in honor of Dan Weldon, Elio, Spider-Man, salutes the crowd, and Dan Weldon.
Say, Marty, oh, what a feeling.
And now he's heading across the street, and he's going over to the sign. Oh, wow. Emotional moment for everybody, and oh, so appropriate. And it shows you the respect and love that all these racers had for Dan. So they will refire Elio's engine, and he'll make his way towards victory lane. And for us, the victory has already been sweet, with the captain getting the win. But oh, the moment on the fence was just incredible for everyone here, as he just salutes Dan Weldon. We'll be back after this word from your ABC stations. Well, we knew we were going to have some surprises here at St. Petersburg. Obviously, going into the race, we thought that Will Power, Dario Franchitti, the 2 contenders for last year's championship, would be right up there battling it out again. Power finishes 7th. Franchitti, the last car on the lead lap, in 13th. Let's talk to the man, though, who snapped a real bad streak here at St. Petersburg. The man in 2nd place. How about it, Jamie Little?
He really did, and with all the unknowns, and then what you thought was a blown pit call early on, you end up tying your best finish here. Your overall thoughts on this new car and the day?
Yeah, the day was tough. You know, obviously the first race back, and after you know, Dan last season, you know, it's been you know, a sad start to the year. But for us, you know, it ended up being a great race. You know, I don't think we quite had the speed, but we had great restarts. We were able to jump some people, and the strategy kind of fell into our hands. I was definitely pretty angry there for a while, and I'm sure a few people heard on the radio. So you know, all in all, great day for Team Target, and you know, hopefully, what is nice to actually finish this race. I haven't finished this race for about 3 or 4 years, so we've got some good points here.
Mission accomplished. That was the goal today. Scott Dixon brings it home second.
Ryan Hunter-Reay standing here, and not the way you wanted to finish that race. You were on a fuel strategy, and instead of going for it, you had to go for mileage. That's frustrating.
Yeah, I thought we had something for Scott on old tires, but you know, that's the way it is sometimes. That Chevy engine made great fuel mileage, and we're happy to get a podium to start out the year, but certainly had bigger things in mind, that's for sure. If you hadn't been playing fuel strategy, did you have what it would have taken to get him? I think so. He was really good on cold tires and at the beginning of stints, and then I'd reel him back in as the tires would get hot. But Scott did a great job today, and we're happy to have 2 Chevys on the podium. Great showing for DHL and Sundrop, but most of all, we're missing Dan. That wound is still fresh, and you know, this race would be better with him in it, that's for sure. And he was just such a great ambassador for our sport. He was a champion, and all of us emulate him. We all want to be like him, and you know, we love the Weldon family. This is their city, and thank you to all the fans who came out. Appreciate it.
Ryan Hunter-Reay finishing third. Marty?
All right, thank you very much, Rick. Take a look at the results, and James Hinchcliffe, his 4th career finish at 4th. That's ties his career best. Sir Simon Pagenaud gained the 10 spots back. He was penalized after qualifying. He ends up in 6th position, and Charlie Kimball, the biggest mover, equals his best career finish from Loudon in 9th place. And there you see 11th through 20th. And we mentioned Dario Franchitti, and there are the cars that had the kind of days that they want to forget and move on down the road. Well, it looks like Elio had to get a tow in after all. They couldn't get him refired, so he makes his way towards Victory Lane celebration as he comes down pit road. Some thoughts from you there, Scott?
Well, it's interesting to see that in the first 3, we actually have Penske and Ganassi and then Andretti. So I think we're going to have a very competitive season. All 3 of these teams seem to understand the new car and the motors. Certainly we'll see some improvement from Lotus in the future. Very impressive first race, Marty.
So let's go to our Honda Victory Lane and hear from our winner.
Elio Castroneves, it's been what a great celebration for Elio after the struggles of a year ago. Has not won a race since Motegi of 2010 before getting it done here at St. Petersburg for the 3rd time. Elio Castroneves getting that helmet off, and never a doubt. Roger Penske climbing in to give a congratulations. Elio still in the car. Elio, considering the struggles of a year ago and all the emotions that came with this finale last year, how important is it to, in your mind, to win this race today?
This is a great effort for everyone. First of all, I want to thank the Shelby Power team. Pennzoil Ultra was awesome. Verizon, IZOD, SKF Group, and Chevy, and no question about our friend upstairs, Dan Weldon, man. Yes, certainly coming back last year was a big struggle. And I'll be here on the victory circle, my man. It's a dream come true. I just have to thank, obviously, Roger Penske, Cindric, and this time, John Erickson, man, and Ron Rosiski. I mean, those guys, and my group here, they did a hell of a job this whole entire weekend. Thanks again. Thanks a million. Thanks for all the support. I appreciate that.
Elio, after the final pit stop, you came out, and then you made that outside pass on Dixon in turn 1. How about that? Take us through it.
Well, I tell you what, as soon as we came out, I kind of like went right in front of Dixon. I couldn't make a move because he was already making a move, and the rules you can't block this time. So he passed me. I said, you know what? Let's see what's going to happen in the straightaway. And as soon as he moved, he gave me an option to go on the outside. I made it stick, and then I made it turn. So it was great. It was a fair race. Great start for this group number 3. Great start for Team Penske, no question.
A great move and a great win for Elio Castroneves, Marty.
And you can see the relief on his face as, boy, he just... it's like a ton of bricks off your shoulders after not winning for a full season, isn't it?
And not winning, and really, as I mentioned during the show, getting shuffled down through the rotation.
Well, obviously, our next stop on ABC will be at the Indianapolis 500, an event that young man right there knows a bit about. He'll be going for number 4, and it'll be Sunday, May 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time right here on ABC. Our telecast will be presented, as always, by GoDaddy.com. There is today's winner, Elio Castroneves, for the third time here at the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. A day full of emotion, a day full of anticipation, a day full of sadness for some, and joy for many others. For our entire ESPN on ABC crew, this is Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here as we make one more salute to Dan Wheldon and the winner, Elio Castroneves. Till we meet again.